Is America closing the doors on education totally? Now, pay attention. For generations, America sold itself as a land of opportunity, dreams, right? The promise was super simple from America. If you worked hard, studied hard, and earned a degree, you could build a better future for yourself and for your family. That was a promise. But today, that promise is under intense pressure. So a Federal Reserve judge has blocked a Trump administration effort to impose new restrictions on student loan for certain graduate and professional degree programs. Now, the legal battle is still unfolding here, but it raises a larger question on the other hand. What kind of country does the United States of America want to be? One that expands educational opportunity, or probably one that limits access because of cost concerns? Now, let's look beyond the headlines here. Student loans are not just numbers on a government spreadsheet. No, they are not. They are probably the bridge that millions of Americans use to access the higher education. Without financial aid, countless students would never become doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers, teachers, researchers, or healthcare professionals as this country needs. Now, many students do not come from a wealthy family. This Trump got to know. But many of the first generation college students, many of immigrants or children of working class parents, for these people, loans are not luxury at all. No, they are the only path forward for them. When politicians talk about limiting federal student loans, supporters say they are protecting taxpayers. Now, their argument is that universities have become too expensive. They say college continue rising tuition fees because federal loans make unlimited borrowing possible, right? That's the point here. Now, the point to graduate who accumulate massive debts and struggle to repay it. Those concerns are legitimate. I totally get it. Now, America's higher education system does have a very serious problem. Tuition costs have exploded to the roof. Now, student debts has reached enormous levels. Some institutions charge extraordinary prices while delivering questionable values. Now, these issues deserve scrutiny 100%. But there is another side of the story. If the answer is simply restricting access to loans, who pays the price? The wealthy? Not really. They will not pay that. Families with money can still afford college. They can still send their children to medical school, law school, and graduate programs, right? For them, it's easy. The people most affected are those who rely on federal assistance totally. The middle class, the working class who are really struggling. Students from disadvantaged backgrounds, they are struggling. When financing disappears, opportunity often disappears along with it. And that's where critics of these restrictions raise a fundamental concern. America is competing in a global economy, as we all know that. Now, the future belongs to the nation that invests in knowledge, technology, science, medicine, and innovation. Countries around the world are aggressively investing in education because education is the backbone of the country, and they are producing engineers, top-class engineers. They're producing top-class researchers, top-class scientists all around the world. They're even producing highly trained professionals in every field as possible. Meanwhile, if America begin making advanced education harder to access, what happens? The talent pool shrinks 100%. Potential innovators are left behind totally. Future doctors never enter medical school. Future nurses never complete advanced training, and they just remain behind. Future researchers never make discoveries. The cost of that loss potentially may be probably far greater than the money saved by restricting loans. Education is not merely an expenses. No, it is not. It is an investment to this country. A nation that invests in human capital invests in its own future. Now, history also shows that societies that prioritize education probably leads to an economic growth, innovation, and global influences too. Now, societies that neglect education often struggle to remain very competitive in this world. Now, this debate is not really about left versus right. It is not really about Democrat versus Republicans. No, we are not talking about that. It is about how America balances two competing realities. So one reality is that student debt has become unsustainable. Everyone knows this. Now, the other reality is that educational opportunity remains essential. Now, a responsible solution would be probably addressing the both. Reduce tuition inflation, increase accountability for universities, improve transparency about job outcomes. Now, crack down on predatory programs, right? That's the most important thing. We got to do that. Encourage alternative where appropriate, but also preserve pathway for talented students who need financial support totally, and they will be the future of this country. Because the goal should not be fewer educated Americans. No, the goal should be more educated Americans with less debts. That should be the goal. That is why it's a very different subject. Now, the danger comes when policymakers only focus on reducing costs while ignoring the long-term consequences on this subject. A nation cannot cut its own way to greatness. A nation cannot innovate its own forward while simultaneously narrowing educational access. No, they just can't do that. The world's economy is becoming more and more forward and more knowledgeable, probably based every single year with this AI and artificial intelligence, biotechnology, advanced manufacturing. As we all know that cybersecurity, medical research, these fields require highly educated workers. Look at China. They are just going crazy on a very top side. If America wants to lead in 21st century, it must ensure that talented students can reach this professional regardless family income. Now, the real challenge is finding the system that protects taxpayer without closing doors for future generations. So that is the debate Americans should be having. Not whether education matters, but how to make education accessible to every American, affordable and so valuable. Now, because when opportunity becomes limited to those who can afford it, the country risks wasting enormous amount of talent right here. Because in America, we have a lot of talented people. Amazing. So when talent is wasted, everyone loses right here. The students loses. The economy loses the first. Innovation loses the first. And what happened? The GDP just goes down. Ultimately, the nation loses. The future belongs to countries that unlock human potential, not countries that restrict it. So the question is, America must answer is very simple. Will it invest in its people, or will it allow financial barrier to determine who gets a chance to succeed and who gets a chance to access that? So the choice will shape probably the country's future for decades to come, as we all know that we are entering an AI era. Now, a strong critic of the policy would be it risks reducing social mobility. Students from lower income families depends most on federal loans. It may worsen professional shortage, healthcare, nursing, and other fields already face workforce shortage. Now, it also protects taxpayers today, but may reduce economic growth tomorrow. It could deepen inequality. Wealthy students retain access while poorer students face new barriers. It treats symptoms rather than causes. High tuition costs originate largely from the institutional and systematic issue, not simply from students borrowing money. No. At the same time, a balanced analysis should acknowledge that supporters are responding to a real problem, the enormous size of student debts and concerns about university charging increasingly and stupidest, highest fees to the people. Now, the policy debate is probably ultimately about how to solve the problem, not whether the problem exists. No. Thank you. If you like the video, if you like the breakdown, you can subscribe for more and more.